Today, I'm talking with Ania Knapinska. Ania is a mobile home park investor from Central Florida. She'll tell us all about why mobile home parks are such a great investment. Here we go.
Mobile home parks are a very attractive class because when the premise of owning mobile home parks is that you own the land, but you don't own the homes. So with that being said, you can imagine that the overhead is much, much lower than owning an apartment complex or single family homes. You don't have the roofs to take care of, the air conditioners, if they break, it's on the tenant. It's really on the mobile home owner, not on you. And, so really what you're taking care of is the land, the landscaping, and the roads that go through the mobile home park. Of course, there's all different classes of mobile home parks. They can range just like apartment buildings from just very basic, from C to D class to A class, and you can go up to A plus class mobile home parks where they have amazing facilities, they have clubhouses, they have pools, and things like that. So in that respect, they're very similar to apartment buildings. But what's really nice for residents is that they're in charge of their own home. And there's no more affordable way of owning a home and living well than living in a mobile home park, if it's well kept, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I can only, imagine that there's that pride of ownership there too, because they do own their own home. A lot of times when you have apartment rentals, people know that it's a temporary situation. They don't necessarily take care of it, and they look to the landlord to do everything. And boy, when you're renting land as a landlord and your tenant owns their own home and takes care of it, takes care of the property, I can imagine, it's a win-win. They're building something that's of value in the asset that they have with their mobile home, and they're keeping their land nice because they want to be part of a nice park. A nice park drives higher value of their property, of their mobile home. And as a landlord, in this case, literally a landlord with just land,
yes.
It's a win for you because you don't have the headaches of tenants that are damaging their house and water heaters and roofs and all that other stuff that you mentioned. So sounds like a great asset class.
Yeah, you pretty much you nailed it, and that pride of ownership is what makes it really rewarding, both for tenants and for the landlords, because it's really this is the most affordable asset class, and whether it's a starting family or perhaps person downsizing and not wanting to take care of too big of a house, or just living their dream, living in a nice place and just still owning a home. There's no other asset class that compares to that.
Right. Yeah. And so it's interesting. A lot of times, we mentioned your live-in contractor, your husband, who does the kitchen and bath renovations. When it comes to mobile home parks, how do you look at adding value to a mobile home park when you don't own the kitchens and baths?
Yeah, so there's actually some similar ways to add value, just like apartment complexes, and then others that are much more simple. So the biggest value add that we look for, of course, we always look to buy properties that are undervalued. And the way they're going to be undervalued are several ways, just like apartment complexes. The rents may be under market value, and also maybe there's a little bit of disrepair on the sides of the roads that go through the park. Perhaps there's not much landscaping, so the park doesn't attract the best tenants to move in and live there. So those are very simple ways that we can increase value to a park by increasing rents, increasing just landscaping, bringing people to pay on time, enforcing rules that you would normally have in an apartment complex. So what's really nice about this asset class too is that the majority of mobile home parks in the United States are owned by mom and pops or people who started these parks maybe in the 60s, 70s, or 80s. And so there's a better chance of actually talking directly to sellers rather than having serious investors who are very business oriented and they know values of their properties. So it gives us an advantage to talk to people to help them out when they want to perhaps retire from that business, but perhaps they haven't been keeping up with market rents, or with just adding value over time to the mobile home parks, or to even filling it up to maximize the profits. Perhaps they had, maybe there's space for 20 units, but they only brought 10 units or 12 units because that gives them enough to make a good living, and they live there too. And there comes time when they're just getting tired of maybe people pay late, or maybe just mowing the 5 acres that the park is on, and they want to move on. And but yet they haven't really run it as a business. So there's that big advantage in mobile home parks that it's more likely that you will be able to make a deal with a private seller than other classes, other market asset classes.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of things there, and I've seen that playbook play out very successfully. Particularly with mom and pop owners that get tired, and they're just content, right? They're content
Yes.
with what they're getting, and so they're not looking to enforce the rules. That's one that you mentioned, and sometimes it takes only one kind of bad apple in the park that isn't following the rules, and it brings the whole park down, and it makes people want to leave, and then there's more turnover. And so enforcing the rules and taking care of that bad apple can turn a park around very quickly.
Absolutely. Another thing that we see over and over is that the landlords very frequently will end up paying water and sometimes even electric for all the homes. So that is a huge and immediate value add that is pretty easy to address by installing meters at every unit, and perhaps switching the water source from being on a sewer, septic, and a well, to attaching these parks to municipal utilities. That actually also brings huge value to the mobile home park itself. So many banks, really prefer to have public utilities rather than private utilities, and that is also true for many investors. So we usually look for all these value add opportunities, and that is how we look to purchase them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't heard of that move around public utilities or municipal utilities, but I can see why that adds a lot of value for sure around reliability, plus all the separate metering. Makes a lot of sense. You mentioned banks as well. What kind of financing is available for a mobile home park?
So there's financing available just like for apartment complexes. The rules are slightly different. So a lot of the banks look to fund mobile home parks with a value of over $1 million. For Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans, those bigger loans, the cutoff value for those is a little bit higher, a couple million, 2.5 million, as opposed to apartment complexes where you start seeing those kind of loans at $1 million and up. So the banks want to have a little bit more value in the park in order to offer really excellent rates. But honestly, I have worked with brokers that can fund the parks up down to $500,000. So a lot of the banks don't really want to fund anything lower than $500,000. But what's nice about mobile home park space is that since many landlords are a little bit more old school, I should say, they're not opposed to holding notes. So there's many opportunities for even the smaller parks to take advantage and purchase those parks, perhaps develop them, add more units, bring the value up to maybe $1.5 million, and then refinance out of the seller financing that you could potentially receive at the beginning.
I see. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And from a seller's perspective too, I can see how they, particularly the ones that are getting on in their years and they're really just looking to get out of the work and the headaches and just collect the interest, every month and be able to live on that comfortably and do what they want with it. So sounds like a win-win all around.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, you've told us a ton here about Florida, about Tampa, Orlando, Lakeland, and mobile home parks. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I am a little bit biased about Florida because I live here and, we really enjoy it. We think that there are still deals to be had down here, perhaps not in the Miami area or Fort Lauderdale area, Broward and Dade counties. Those are really oversaturated. They are very, very highly priced. Actually, I have one of my brothers is a commercial broker, and he just set a record by getting a property under contract for the highest price per square foot for an industrial property. So, hot areas like that are very good for maybe brokerages, but they're not great for investors. What's also great about where we live a little bit north of those areas. We're about an hour and a half north of Miami. Is that a lot of people get tired of being down in traffic and living in a very crowded area. So people even from South Florida are starting to move up a little bit more north. So we see our area, even Port St. Lucie, has been on a huge growth kick where people are moving not only from up north, but they're also moving from down south. So we are starting to see a large migration of people who are looking for more affordable places to live, really have a good life, but yet still be able to maybe drive that half an hour, 45 minutes to a workplace and make a good income. So we just, we think that we're in a right place, and there's always deals to be had, whether in our immediate area or just throughout Florida, throughout Central Florida, or or other parts of Florida that are growing like Jacksonville.
Yeah, you really can't underestimate the value of the boots on the ground, right? Ania, you live in a market that is ripe for real estate investing. You know the market inside and out. You live it every day. You travel it every day. And I think if you're going to invest outside of your area, gosh, it's like rocket fuel to making the right decisions when you have somebody you're working with like Ania who's on the ground and knows it. So I've learned a lot, and I appreciate all the information you shared with us today. It sounds like an awesome market. You've got an awesome business, and look forward to hopefully working together at some point in the future.
Thank you. We're looking forward to working with you as well.